mean, I was getting up at 6 a.m. I was in my early 20s. I wasn't going out. I was just going to look at properties the next morning. And you can bypass like 4 hours of time and driving around between properties by just looking online. So I think it's simpler today.
Welcome to the REI Partners Meetup. We're your hosts, Matt Morrow and Richard Clark. This is a place where knowledge is shared, friends collaborate, as we help each other to succeed in both our real estate and personal goals. We are a group of like-minded individuals from across the country who are here to help and support each other. Investors, realtors, entrepreneurs, and many others contribute to providing diverse and practical content for our events, especially our mentors who enjoy helping new and experienced investors in their journeys. Thanks for joining. We hope you enjoy the show and encourage you to bring others who may find value as we invest in our collective future. Everybody, welcome to REI Partners. It's Thursday, the 17th of November. We have a pretty good turnout today, surprisingly. We got a whole bunch of guys on the call and gals, 9 people on in person, which is pretty awesome for a workday afternoon. I'm just going to cut straight to the point. We got a pretty awesome group and show today. Mat Pezon is calling in to talk about his quite amazing journey from a full-time career into full-time real estate. So we're just going to go around the room. I'll give you a shout by name if you want to do a quick 30-second intro about each person, and then we'll end with Matt, and then you just take it from there and start your story, if that's all right. Cool. Richard, you're on.
Hey, thanks everyone for joining the call today with REI Partners. Matt and I have garnered a bit of a following, and we're happy about that. My name is Richard Clark. I run a private equities company working one-on-one with capital investors to develop managed portfolios. And you'll hear about me on a number of our calls, as well as Matt Morrow, since we have 3 Matts on the call today. And welcome aboard, everyone.
All right, we'll keep the trend going with Matt Arujo.
Hey everyone, I'm Matt. I'm a full-time grad student. I'm pretty new to all this. I'm here to learn from all of you, and I'm happy to be here. And I live in New York.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. Alex.
Hi, everybody. This is my first call. I'm really glad to be here. I was actually so excited that apparently I showed up a week early. So I'm just throwing that out there. And I sat on the call because I actually thought I was going to be like 2 minutes late. And I was like, oh, crap, did I get kicked out because I'm late? And then I realized, no, I was a week early. So I'm really excited to be here. So I'm looking in Northampton and Lehigh County to invest. And I'm looking for like JV and wholesaling deals right now till I can get into short-term, mid-term rentals. This is my second round in real estate, so I'm really hoping that it sticks this time. Anything else?
That's up to you. What do you want to share?
No, I'll leave it at that for now.
All right, cool. Ben.
What's going on, everyone? My name is Ben Fisher. I'm a full-time undergraduate student. I work with Matt at Matt teaches me at the real estate lab in Allentown, and I had a little bit of time today, so I thought I'd just hop on the call and learn some new stuff.
Awesome. Thanks for joining. Elaine.
Hey there, everyone. I am new to all of this. This is my first call here. I'm acquainted with Richard for over a decade, and acquainted with Matthew Morrow for quite a while too. And I run my own business. I'm very interested in bringing in investors and maybe even looking at having my own managed portfolio. So I'm just here to learn as much as possible. I have a background in real estate, insurance, and as a sales trainer as well, and business consultant. So pretty well-rounded there. And again, I'm really here to learn more about where to go forward. So awesome. Good to be here.
Thanks, Elaine. Ken?
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I am Matt's dad. I am recently retired, and I apologize I don't have a picture because I'm running off an old machine. It's running Linux, so it's not the greatest. But anyway, new to investing. Actually, Matt, myself, and my wife just settled on a 5-unit property this week, and I'm looking forward to learning more. That's
Feels
it.
pretty damn good to say that, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Love it. John.
Hi, my name is John Wargo. I live here in the Lehigh Valley. I am a full-time realtor. I'm also licensed as a realtor in the state of Colorado. I just moved back here. I'm a past investor. I've been working with Matt now for the last couple months. This is probably my about a year now. I've been attending these the meetups, and for those of you who it's your first time, you're going to love it.
John and I are also pretty much neck and neck partners with every real estate deal moving forward as agents. We're tag teaming it. There's a lot of business for investors out there, and he and I have been working very, very closely with everything. So he won't say that, but I will. I won't leave you in the stand. Right on. I think that's everybody. Anybody miss checking in? All right, Matt, your show, man.
All right. Well, Matt and Richard and the group, thank you. First of all, I want to say thank you so much for having me today. Matt, it's been great getting to know you over the last couple of months, and it's a true pleasure to be here and to talk with all of you and share some things. I really hope that some of the things I have to say will help all of you. And please interrupt if you have any questions as I'm going through things. I want this to be as helpful for you as possible, and hopefully you'll get value out of hearing what I've done. So the high level summary. So I was a practicing chemical engineer up until very recently for 12 years. And now I'm a full-time real estate investor. And I also do some work with the real estate lab in Allentown. And Ben, I didn't know you were on the call. That's fantastic. Good for you, man. So a little bit of background, and I want to take you through the action item for today is really to take you through the concrete steps of from W-2 full-time job to now full-time investor. How does that happen? And so I'm going to take about 15 to 30 minutes and go through that progression for you. So I'm originally from the Lehigh Valley. I was born in Allentown, and I grew up in the greater Lehigh Valley between Allentown and Reading. And I went to Lafayette College for undergrad. I completed my chemical engineering degree, and I did a Spanish degree. And I've always been, and I'm also a musician. I've always really appreciated how there's an order to things, whether it's notes on a staff in music, or there's rules to mathematics or physics or thermodynamics. There's a set of principles that if you follow them, they lead you down a path. And if you don't follow the principles, you either sound like you're playing off tune, or something happens in the lab, or something doesn't work correctly because the principles weren't followed. So one of the things that I hope that you get out of this conversation is trying to glean some of those wealth building principles that I've been able to put into practice. And whether it's music or engineering or anything of that nature, or even sports, there's a concrete set of rules. And if you understand them and follow them, you can be very successful. But if you don't follow them, you can be penalized. So I've really started to understand that there's patterns in either the season, cyclical nature of some things, and I apply those just into wealth building and finance. So after graduating from Lafayette, I worked for 3 years for Air Products here locally in the career development program. So I did a rotational program. I learned different roles. The economy wasn't that good at the time. It was 2010, 2011. So the roles were okay. Finally, in my third rotation, I got into a plant startup role, which was really cool. I was out in Ohio starting up large oxygen plants and nitrogen plants. But I had an inkling that I wanted to do something else or more. I just didn't know what. But the thing that I knew that I really wanted to do, though, was go back to Spain. I studied Spanish. I wanted to become fluent in another language. And so I went to IE Business School. I was awarded a Fulbright scholarship to go do my master's in Madrid. I did it all in Spanish. So this conversation would have been in Spanish. Every negotiation, every test, every presentation was all in Spanish. And I just really fell in love with the culture and with the people and being bilingual and seeing the world from a different lens. And in one of the classes, it was about stocks and bonds and trading. And I never really understood that stuff. I still intellectually get it, but I don't really practice it. But there was a small subset of the material on real estate, and it all made sense for me. It just lit up. And I knew in that class, in the first 2 months of my master's degree, that I wanted to do real estate investing when I got back to the States. So I did the rest of the curriculum. We learned a lot about a lot of other stuff for the typical MBA curriculum, but I just knew that real estate was what I wanted to do. So I got back. I worked for REI Products again for another about 2.5 years. And I just started diving into real estate investing, but I was working full time. So I was listening to everything I could get my hands on, podcasts, books. I read hundreds of books. I became obsessed, frankly. I wanted to understand this real estate game. And I read everything. I built spreadsheets, I built models. Everything in my spare time was doing this new thing. I went and saw properties. There were foreclosures at the time. In 2014, there's barely any now, but I would wake up at 6 a.m. and get breakfast with a group of investors, kind of like this. And then from 7 to 8:30, we would talk about real estate and other things. And then from 9 to noon, we would see properties, and then we would debrief and we'd evaluate each one and say why it was or wasn't a good deal. And that was the highlight of my week. I loved it. And that was really how I got started. Then in 2014, I bought my first property, and that was it. I was hooked. I mean, it was hard. I did a flip in 2015. It took me a year. I lost $5,000. It was terrible. I realized I didn't want to flip. So, and that was while I was working full time. Then I took a new job and went to a competitor of REI Products, and I kept working full time, and I kept buying, and I kept working and buying, and I would go see properties. I'd either take a half day off, or I'd see properties on the weekend. And I was putting in offers and buying more properties. And then as the market went up in value and prices increased, I did cash out refinances to buy more, and it just kept growing and growing and growing. In all, I said earlier, I was in industry for 12 years, and all that time I was constantly double hatting. 9 of those years I had owned a property, and as I was buying more. So then I finally transitioned out of the corporate space. The opportunity cost of retaining that job was just too high. And now I'm looking for deals and doing deals full time. I closed on 13 units yesterday in Schuylkill County, and I have another 7 under contract now that'll close in the next 3 weeks. So, and that's just the culmination of months of, there's always an iron in the fire and constantly just trying to work on deals. And that's where I'm at right now. So I wanted to take you, so that's a little bit about my background. For the next 10, 15 minutes, I wanted to take you through kind of step by step what you can do if you're in a full-time job right now, how you can start. And you don't necessarily have to quit your job and buy thousands of units, but the framework that I'm going to give you it's valid whether you want to buy 10 units or 3 units, or if you want to scale into hundreds of units. It's the same principles that you can use to grow your business as you work full time. So number one is your personal investment philosophy and your mindset. You need to identify what your goals are and what you'd like to do and where you'd like your business to go. And also think about your mindset. Do you have a scarcity mindset or a growth mindset? Do you have a mindset of a consumer or a producer? Do you have the mindset of an entrepreneur, or maybe of a consumer of a product or service? And wherever you are today, it doesn't matter. You can shift how you think about things, and that lens that you see the world through, that's the most important thing. Because if you're not thinking like an investor and you're not thinking like a business owner, you can end up making a lot of mistakes, or you can end up being too far into the weeds on your business, or you could end up maybe not following your own contracts or agreements with your vendors or your customers because you just want to help them and you're not thinking about who might be harmed by your actions, that if you're not getting paid under an agreement, who that might affect. So you have to really hone in on your mentality and your mindset in order to be successful in this business. And it's hard because you're right at that stage, you're a W-2 employee. So you're working as an employee, but at the same time, you're having to think differently. And it's like a two-pronged thinking. You have to think a certain way in your job, but then another way for your business. And it's challenging. So after you really hone in on your mindset, and there's a whole bunch of books and podcasts on mindsets. I won't get into all the various resources, but you can whether it's it's Tony Robbins or any of the. I follow Darren Hardy a lot. I listen to his daily what is it, Darren Daily stuff that he does. And there's tons of other resources on mindset that could be recommended, but really get your mindset right before you start. Next, after your mindset, now you have to buy a property. So in order to do that, you need to have your personal finances in order, because if you're not managing your finances, you're not going to be managing a property's finances for a family that's living in that property. So you really need to get you right. So what do I mean by your personal financial situation? That's your credit score. So in the real estate lab, I do credit counseling with all the students, and they have various scores from poor to good. And the goal is, how can we maximize your score in the fastest amount of time possible so that you can qualify for a loan and buy your first property or your next property. So that's all about how much debt do you have? Is it student loans? What credit card debt do you have that could be paid off? How much time or what age have you had for your credit history? Should you get a secured credit card or not get a secured credit card? All these things really are important, because at the end of the day, it's just a number and your lender pulls it and it's good or it's not good, right? So that's number one. And then another thing we do in the real estate lab is we talk about maximizing your income and minimizing your expenses. So when I was starting out, I took it to an extreme, and I probably shouldn't have, but I was living in a friend's basement for like $300 a month, and just, I was saving everything. I was eating terrible food, unhealthy food, just to because it was like $1 for like a cup of noodles. And I shouldn't have been doing that, but I wanted to pay off my loans as fast as possible for my education at Lafayette. Looking back, I should have probably focused more on increasing my income, and because it's debt to income is the ratio that the lenders use. So instead of reducing my debt, I should have increased my income, but you live and you learn. I guess it took me a couple of years in the basement to figure that out. So after you really need to maximize that income. That could be taking a part-time job. Lenders love W-2 income. They really, really love it. So if you have W-2, medium to high income, it's fantastic. You could take a part-time W-2 role and really juice that income, because lenders love W-2. It's predictable. It comes every 2 weeks. It's from a reliable source. It's not 1099 that you're having to go out and hustle and you might not get it next month, right? So, and next, I mean, a huge one for your personal financial situation and wherewithal, just your education, podcasts, just dive into all that and really soak up as much as you can. Read books, read as much as you can, and do podcasts. You know, if you're in the car driving to and from your commute. My car was my mobile university, and it still is. You know, I look at that time as, I'll just put something on instead of sports or music. Just what can I learn today? So after your mindset, and once you really break out and understand your personal financial situation and your next steps there to improve your bankability, then you need to understand what market you want to invest in and why, and your team. Your team is, the market's extremely important, because if there's no jobs and there's no employment opportunities, there won't be people. So the market's key. I know this is Lehigh Valley focused, so we'll assume the market's the Lehigh Valley. It's a great economy, very diverse, larger than like 2 states. So it's a great place to invest, and proximity wise to New York, New Jersey, other places. But next, your team is huge, because who's operating your property? And to start, it might be you, it might be your family. But it's so important. Who's your lender? Who are your contractors? Who's your property manager? Who's your insurance agent? All these things can make or break you, because investing isn't a solo game. It's a team sport. So having the right team is crucial. And then once you have your market and your team right, after that point, then you start looking for the property. A lot of newer investors they want to go online and I just want to find a property. And they don't think about, okay, is this in a good location? Who's going to manage this? Who will my lender be? They jump right to the property because that's fun and their pictures online. But you really need to start with your mindset, your personal financial situation, your team, and your market first. And then once you have those four things, the next step is to find the right property. And in today's market, that's tough. It really is, I'll be honest, because there's a lot of competition. There's fewer homes available than in the past. So you have to, I do, and what I'd like to give the group as my give to this group is, and Matt, you and I talked about this, a really good resource for you to find good properties is called Deal Machine. Deal Machine it's basically an app that as you're driving around, you can take pictures of properties, and if they're in disrepair, and the website, and you put in the address, the website will pull the public record and start sending postcards to those owners. And you could make it like, hey, is this your property? I'd like to buy it. Call me at 1-2-3-4-5-6-7-8-9 and put your email address. And then the system automatically sends out postcards to these properties that are in disrepair. Some of them will bounce back. Sometimes you get calls, but it's a strong platform for generating leads, especially as you're starting out, to drive around and find properties. So that's finding the right property. But you could do anything. You could cold call, you could text, you could mail letters, you could door knock. You can, just Google how to find real estate properties off market, or you could work through an agent. Work with the agents on this call, right? And there's opportunities that before they even list, they may bring to you. There's scores of ways you could find deals. Then you need to underwrite the deal. You need to understand the risk of the deal, and you need to put a value on the deal so that you understand if you're overpaying or not. And we could dive into the details of all of this, but that's the real thing about the property. You have to buy right, and you have to finance it right, and you have to operate it right. You have to underwrite it right, and you have to understand all the risks. And then a couple more things, and then I'll start to ramp down on my suggestions. Cash reserves, key. It's so crucial because you don't know when the roof is going to have an issue, a water heater is going to fail, a boiler is going to fail. There could be an unpredicted event that no one saw coming, like, I don't know, a global pandemic that shuts everything down. And you need to have cash, not just to purchase the property, but to withstand the impacts of unforeseen events. We don't know what could happen. There could be a valley-wide rent control motion. You don't know what could happen to you, and you need to be prepared for anything. And the most important way to do that first is buying right. Buy at a discount, because you reduce your risk when you buy low, and also maintain your cash reserves. So with all those things in mind, and then you buy your first right property, you buy the first property right, then you need to operate it right. You need to respond to your tenants' needs. You need to follow the lease, and you need to, maintenance concerns are the biggest thing. So make sure you have contractors and people you can trust, and the group can refer you to people, but make sure that you're operating properly. So those are the steps there and then you look to repeat it. So then you buy your next property, and don't rush into the next one. Really get your feet wet and understand. And over time, you'll build confidence. You'll build relationships. It's a people business. It really is. You're providing services to the community, to tenants, to banks. You're giving them a return. Insurance companies. You're the hub of all these people, and they're counting on you to deliver value to all of them. And so you need to be responsible. And so don't over leverage and jump into the next property. Be smart and be prudent, and participate in groups like this so that you can ask questions and get guidance. So those are really the steps. So, and maybe taking a step back then, all this is going on while you're working full time, right? So you have your day job. Many of you may have families. I have a 14-month-old son. My wife and I, we're and we were both working full time at the time as well. So it's about balance and doing what you need to do in your job, but also trying to build toward what you're really passionate about and growing your real estate portfolio and building your assets. And how do you balance all those things? Health, family, your job, your investments, spirituality, all the areas of your life, your emotional health, and doing all those things while growing this new part of your life. It's not easy. It's going to be very hard, but if done properly and implemented the right way, it can be very helpful to the community and for your own well-being and wealth. So those are the tips or the steps of going from full-time to real estate investor full-time, or even just building a smaller portfolio. So with that, I guess we can open up for questions or comments on any of those areas.
Yeah. Hey, Matt, this is Richard.
Hey, Richard.
You're
You hear
quick
me?
on the gun.
Yeah,
Hey,
go for it.
just a quick question, Matt. When did you, at what level of income did you decide to leave your job?
Yeah, it wasn't, so I sold 11 single families so far this year. And really I guess I made 10 times more, well, maybe 8 times more in just the capital gains from the properties that I'd purchased compared to what my salary was. And I realized, wow, so I could sell, basically one single family was almost my annual salary. And I realized, wow, I could do this.
All right. Yeah. So
Like
you
I
did
have
more
assets
flips
behind me to support, there's value there, right? So
right. So
yeah.
you did more flips than you did buy and hold, right? Starting out.
Well, I did almost all buy and hold. I've barely flipped anything, maybe like 2 or 3 properties I've sold in under a year. So everything those properties that I sold, I'd owned for 7 or 8 years.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
Sure.
Man, I think the way you presented that hits a lot of us really, really close to home. I know there's at least 1, 2, 3, 4 of you who are actively asking this question, how to start. Like, I need the W-2, but I need this to make it happen. And the way you laid that out was so like perfect that I think all of us could take something from this, and especially people who are going to watch this video in the future, which most of them are just, getting started. We do have several full-time real estate investors that are on the call and in the group, but the way you laid that out was it was perfect. So thank you very much for, everyone on the call is looking in the Lehigh Valley and other places, but I really appreciate how you presented that from a high level. That's good.
Yeah. Happy to share. Absolutely. What other questions does the group have?
I know you people have some. I'm going to start picking on people soon.
I have a quick question. So how do you fund, or how did you fund most of your deals early on in your investing career?
That's a great question. So with the full-time job came an income, and I was almost too disciplined about making sure that I kept almost all of that money, as opposed to spending it on inflated rent or other expenses, trips, cars, whatever. And so I live very frugally to start, and still do, and always will, because it's just a principle that I have. But in the beginning, I had a car paid off, but once I understood the value of leverage, I actually took a loan against that car because I had no debt. And then I used that as a down payment, and in addition to the savings that I had, because I think I was paying like 1.5% or maybe 1% on the car. And I figured, well, I got to be doing better than that in real estate. So I leveraged my car and purchased the purchased a house. And then to afford the down payment, I also used the FHA program. So I bought a 4-unit in Allentown and lived in 1 unit. And I was able to put 3.5% down on that property. So that's another creative way where, and you can even finance the closing costs. So that's how I bought a 4-unit with, I think I put down like $13,000 or something like that for 4 units. And then it appreciated over time. And then as you have those assets over the years, you can refinance them, or you can sell them and harvest that equity as the nominal price of the property goes up. So that's what I did starting out. I was just very frugal. And I did other work on the side too, freelancing stuff, Upwork, different stuff to try to save as much as I could and just plow it into real estate.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Matt, I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
When did you know? There was a day probably that you remember where you determined that this was the switch. What was that like? I
couldn't do it all anymore. Like I'm the type of person where there was just a day where I realized that I couldn't even work if I worked around the clock and didn't sleep, that I wouldn't be able to complete all of the tasks to the level that I expect of myself. And that for my personal brand, even as an employee, I expect a certain level of excellence for everything that I do, that I'm personally involved with, whether I'm doing that task or delegating that task to someone else. If it's associated with me, it has to be to a certain caliber of excellence, and I couldn't do it all. So I realized I have to make a choice. So it wasn't one particular event or I missed something, or it was just I couldn't anymore. And I wasn't able to I wasn't able to be present enough for my family or do what I needed to do for tasks at work. And I just realized, look, I have to make a choice here. And I made my choice.
And you have a team now, right? What does your management structure or your team look like?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, I didn't elaborate on that. So I have a virtual lead manager. She sits not in the Lehigh Valley, but she answers phones and manages our CRM and does a bunch of lead intake type things that she follows up. She if a lead hasn't been touched in 30 days, she's calling them or texting them. And then I have various 1099 employees. So along with the frugality mentality that I still maintain, I want to maintain a very, very lean team and structure, because I don't want overhead that then has to potentially be shed later, or that I could do by not hiring full time. So that's a choice that I've made. Now, some people want to build an in-house team and vertically integrate right out of the gate. I don't. People ask me all the time, Matt, with all your units, why don't you own a management company? Because I don't want to. I want to focus on more deals. I don't want full-time employees. And now I'm in the process of hiring someone part-time that will lead to a full-time role for lead acquisitions. It'll be an acquisitions manager, but so back to the structure, everything's 1099. So I have people on Upwork that help me out with design stuff, with website stuff, with various vendors for the SEO stuff that I do, for the letters that I send out, the various lead gen. It's all 1099. And then I'm somewhat of the central hub, but I'm starting to hire out more and build more and more systems and processes so that I can continue to grow. Because at the end of the day, just like in my job, there's only so much time, and I can only go see so many deals just by myself. And so I need someone else, because there's more deal flow potential, I believe, especially as the market changes. I want to be ready to go after opportunity. And if it's just me, I can only do so much by myself. So that's a long-winded answer, Matt, but it's basically a lead manager. It's going to be a part-time person, and then like 4 1099s. But then all the management, I mean, that's a whole other company, the property manager. Like they have FTEs associated with my units. I mean, it's probably like 4 or 5 of them. They just have the FTEs on their side, on their payroll. And then it just comes off of my rents, which are built into the deal that I buy. So I don't buy a deal unless if management can be afforded, and then they hire the FTE, not me.
And you use Empire Property Management?
I do, yes.
Yeah. And they handle everything
love
from
Empire.
leasing all the way through.
Empire. Yeah, I love Empire Property Management.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Who else out there has some questions?
I have one.
Sure.
So what would be your advice to someone who maybe doesn't have quite as linear of a path in life as what you've had?
Well, my advice is that it doesn't matter what happened before, it's where you're going. And I would say it starts with education, and getting, like I said, the first step is really getting your mindset and understanding what your goals are and what your personal investment philosophy is, and saying, okay, regardless of maybe I didn't have a linear path, or maybe I didn't have a moment that I said, wow, real estate investing makes sense. Then you can decide and say, okay, well, regardless of what happened in the past, I'm here now. I want to do this, and then start getting educated and figuring out your goals and putting together a plan. That's a little bit high level. I don't know if you wanted something more concrete, but it really just comes down to hunger. Like if you decide I have to do this and I have no other option, I'm going to do this, you'll figure it out. It doesn't matter what happened before, it's where are you going that matters.
Okay, thank you. Sorry
Of
about
course. No, all good.
So Matt, there's a few guys on the call now, and quite a few that are going to watch this later who are looking for the first deal. And I know at the lab, you talk with the guys there and the gals about how to find the deal and being hungry enough to find it, and that on market, there are some deals, but you get out of it what you put into it, and finding something truly off market is where you make your best opportunities typically. What kind of advice do you have for people looking maybe more on a general level, not just the Lehigh Valley, although everyone here would consider an investment in the Lehigh Valley, for them to find and underwrite their first property? Obviously, you need someone to help you through it, but what kind of advice would you have for that scenario?
Yeah, for underwriting your first property. So, I mean, or for properties, I would say repetition is very important. So I wouldn't just underwrite one and say, well, how can I make it work, and then try to buy it. I mean, I would underwrite 100 deals. I mean, when I was getting started, and at that time, there were properties that you could physically go into, which was good, and the online game in 2014 was really starting to come alive. But now everything's at your fingertips. So you could take a virtual tour. I would argue it's even easier to get started today, because you have realtor.com, you have Zillow, you have Trulia, you have LoopNet, you have all these sites. All this information is out there. Now, the challenge is it can become more cluttered because there's this information, but I would underwrite 100 deals. I would just look at, okay, what's my income? What do I think? And you could use sites like rentometer.com, or you could to evaluate what the income is, or you could ask an agent, or you could go on like Lehigh County Housing Authority and look at what's fair market rent for a 3-bedroom apartment. So there's all these different things that you could find about your income. And then you can look at, well, what are my expenses? And you could put together just a really quick, like if you have to overly analyze a deal and go back and forth for a really long time, and it doesn't make just really simple sense with, okay, what's my income and what are all my expenses and what's my bottom line income? If it's really too tight and you're making no income, or like $50, you don't have to split hairs, and it's probably not worth your time. So, I mean, that would be my advice. Just look online, underwrite properties, look at 100 of them, right? Just make a very, very simple spreadsheet: income, like rent, and then expenses, principal, interest, taxes, insurance, maintenance, management, vacancy, accounting, miscellaneous, trash, water, sewer. Those are the big ones. And then just say, well, income minus expenses. and like, is it a positive number or a negative number? And just do it like 100 times, and you'll get more and more repetition. Repetition's how you learn. So don't be afraid, and just try it. Make your own spreadsheet and just try.
Matt, does that sound familiar?
Yeah.
How many deals will we run through?
Good amount now, for sure.
You'll get there, man. You'll get there. That's what Matt just said before is really, really important. If you analyze 20 deals and don't pick one, it's normal. And the people like the freaks who find a slam dunk on their first one, it doesn't exist in all practical, application, but you just keep at it, because when you find one and the numbers work, you could see the listing come through if it's on market, or if you get the value that the seller wants, you instantly know, oh, this has the potential to be good. But the more you do it, the more comfortable it'll be. So that's really good advice, Matt. Thank you.
Sure. Well, and I actually physically went to the properties when I was getting started, and then would review them with others. So I would say not just sitting behind your computer, but getting out and seeing a couple of them with an agent where you think it could make sense, and then working through a group like this and underwriting deals and getting feedback. But the truth is, with all the numbers online, there's really no reason that you can't just underwrite a bunch of deals like tonight, right? Like, just do it. And I hate to be so blunt, but like, you can just look online. Like, I had to physically go, and there were things online, but you can do it actually faster. I mean, I was getting up at 6 a.m. I was in my early 20s. I wasn't going out. I was just going to look at properties the next morning, and you can bypass like 4 hours of time and driving around between properties by just looking online. So I think it's simpler today with all the tools you have available.
There's some deal analysis
there's like paid underwriting services. Like, oh gosh, Matt. I know Bigger Pockets has a calculator. There's other like real estate underwriting tools that you can buy too online. So if you're not comfortable making your own spreadsheet, you can just buy a subscription. It could be like $19 a month or something. And like, instead of, going out to lunch or whatever that month, just like skip that and buy a subscription for a month to a real estate calculator.
If anybody here needs an analysis spreadsheet, we have one. It's very simple. It has all the basics. Bigger Pockets has a copy on there, but you do need a subscription to use it. We use it with our clients. It's very simple, has everything you could need up to like 5-6 units. You could plug in numbers. It'll pump out rough numbers for you to see if it's a good deal. It has a current performing and a future performing tab, so you know what it is. And then there's a tool that actually Richard got us turned on to a while ago, and he has a cool discount code if you ever want to go. It's called Deal Machine. I'm not Deal Machine. It's called Deal Check. Deal Check.
Yeah, I'll put the link up in the chat.
This thing is a fantastic tool. It's like $100 a year. If you're going to use it a lot, it's worth the money. I have paid for it over and over again with deals. It'll import active listings into it. It'll pull all the tax records, fair market rents, the purchase price, everything. And it's a really cool report that you can impress a lot of people with if you need to get numbers out there. So if you need a spreadsheet or deal analysis tools, just send us a message. There's tons of them out there, but the big thing is do it. Get used to doing it.
So I have a question for the group. What is the and maybe it's different for each person, but what is the biggest challenge that in your businesses or in your journey to get started in real estate that you're experiencing right now?
I'll go first. Finances.
What part of it?
The debt to income ratio. And I have a 1099 contracting job, which isn't really making much money at this point. But I haven't had a W-2 job probably in over 10 years. So
okay.
I had some health problems for like probably 5 to 7 years. I can't remember off the top of my head. I'd have to actually sit down and write the dates down to give you like exacts. So I'm pretty much using my husband's income for everything. And just from all the medical bills and vet bills and just life in general, our debt to income is high. I've never missed a payment on my bills, but it's, pretty significant. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, if I could make a suggestion or two, I mean, I think that 1099 is fine. It's not that it's not good income, and especially, and I don't know if it's the same role that you've been in, but the lenders do that. They'll obviously count it, especially if it's the same role or the same contract. They'll look at maybe 2 or 3 years of historic earnings. So I would say, how could you increase that 1099 income? Or do an additional contract, or even anything, any type of services. And there's, it's any, these days you can do anything online and get paid for it. So what skills do you have, and what skills can you leverage to earn additional income so that you can pay down some of those debts and things to a level that's bankable?
Okay.
Yep. And your husband too. I mean, if you're probably going to be partnering together on different things, and maybe, and depending on each family's, dynamics, it could be, it's unique to the family, but, he could also look at other ways too. Or maybe he could take on other roles, and you could focus more on the investing side and education. Like it's conversation with your partner and your husband, but there's definitely, with more people, there's more opportunities. So you can leverage and gain more income to pay down those debts.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. What other roadblocks are you seeing? Or just, and anyone, right? Yeah.
Actually, I'm going to jump back to what she was talking about with the debt to income ratio.
Mhm.
When you're approaching something, I'm not even a homeowner anymore. I sold my home many years ago, and I'm married, but my husband and I keep separate everything, income and everything separate. So if I wanted to buy my first property, and I'm 1099, if I wanted to buy my first property, what kind of debt income ratio is the bank looking for as that first investment property? And is it harder, depending on the relationship with the bank, to get a bank to say yes if it's not an owner occupied property?
Yeah. So I'll answer this 2 ways, and the first answer is, I hate saying this because it's like a more advanced concept, but if the deal is good enough, there will always be the money there. So you could do like a short-term lender, you could do a hard money lender. If you find a good enough deal, you shouldn't have to worry about how to finance it, because someone will finance it. But a more traditional answer would be that the banks don't, and I'd have to check the current guideline. It might be like 45% debt to income. And it might be slightly higher, maybe 48% above that. So if you make $5,000 a month, just for simple math, then your debt couldn't be more than like I don't know, $2,400 a month or $2,300, something like that. So that's what I mean by debt to income. So that's the level that the banks won't want to go above. And then of course they want cash reserves too, because they don't want you having to live hand to mouth, because they don't want the property back. They're not in the property ownership game. They're in the lending game. So they're also going to want cash reserves. So you have to really look at, well, if I have this money saved up and some of it's going to go to the down payment, well, could I not qualify based on my debt to income? So should I pay down debt, or do I need to make sure I have enough reserves after I buy the property so that I'm not getting disqualified based on not having enough cash? So you just have to
what
look
kind of
at the
reserve do
balance
they
of
look
those
for?
things.
Well,
Usually
let's say
6 months. Yeah, 6 months of your operating expenses.
okay, six months operating expenses. You
Yep.
mentioned short-term financing or hard money financing. How do you
Yep.
find those people?
So I've worked with Conquest Funding. I've done probably 30 or 40 transactions with them over the years. So they're good. They're local. So I mean, that's just an example. Agents can refer you to other hard money lenders. I know there are various other ones. There's like Lehigh Financial is another one. I never have done a deal with them, but I think like DLP Capital. I mean, there's probably like 10 others, So you just kind of, Google it, and through referral networks, you find these lenders.
Okay, because I'm gonna actually be probably more investing in the greater Atlanta area or in the Georgia and Florida areas. So that's
Got
what
it.
I'm looking to do.
Elaine, most of those
and
lenders,
probably just word of mouth through there. Yep.
if the numbers work and there's a conservative buffer and you have the cash reserves, the money will just come from multiple sources. People love to fund these things. So
Got it.
I would talk to an Atlanta-based, like a respected agent, and see what kind of private money contacts they have down there.
That
Yeah,
makes
the
sense.
ones Matt mentioned are very well respected in the Lehigh Valley, but I'm not sure that they'd go near Atlanta.
Sure.
No. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, probably not. Okay, very good. No, I like the idea of talking to some agents and finding it. Okay. That's a good idea. Thank you.
Just like Pawn
Sure, of
Stars,
course.
everybody has a buddy who has a buddy who has a buddy who could hook you up somewhere. Matt, would you mind running us through like your deal flow or your website, if you have something like that you'd be willing to
Sure.
share?
Yeah, let me share my screen. So this is one. So this is our family picture. This is a little old because my son's like about a year older than that now. But yeah, so this is our website for Pezon Properties, and this is one avenue that we get deal flow. So this site's newer. It's like maybe 4 or 5 months old. So I'm not really seeing much traction. I wouldn't really recommend starting out with a website, although you can. I didn't do it, but it takes a long time to get traction, and buying the site and designing the site. And I'd recommend some of the other deal finding sources, but people come in here and they basically they can, there's like, okay, how do you sell your house the easy way? There's a whole bunch of information about situations that we can help with. I have testimonials on here for social proof, so that people see, oh yeah, this is like a real person who worked, and these are actual customers. There's a how it works section. So basically step one, tell us about the property, we'll make an offer, and then you choose if you want to accept it. Basically no obligation. And then a whole bunch of other like definitions and what we do, and am I going to get a low ball offer? Like trying to diffuse all these questions that a potential house seller will have. There's a comparison between working with us versus working with an agent, and the fees and commissions and other things. So how we differentiate ourselves from agents, and then reviews. So again, social proof, like, we're ranked 5 stars on Facebook, Google, we're accredited with BBB, we're with the Chamber of Commerce. We have all the social media sites and stuff like that. Here are our testimonials. And so this, and then written testimonials. So again, this is a long game, and the internet space is very competitive. So it's not the easiest place to get started. But if you come over here, I'll show you like Sell My House Fast, Allentown. There should be, hopefully it comes up right now. Looks like my ad isn't at the top. Anyway, I'm doing Google ads, like pay-per-click stuff. Let me see, maybe it's at the bottom right now. No, it's not there. Anyway, ads come up for Pezon Properties on, if someone types in Sell My House Fast or stuff like that. So these are all tactics that you can try, but it's not cheap. Like, I wouldn't recommend if you're getting started out doing this stuff, because you could end up spending thousands on leads that go nowhere. In the long run, it works and makes sense. But if you're trying to get your first property, I'll be crystal clear on this. I would so much rather a newer investor just buy a property and get started and learn, even though it might be closer to market price, like just get started, as opposed to waiting a year or 2 years and spinning your wheels, analysis paralysis, trying all these different things, websites, pay-per-click. And I'd rather you just go through an agent and buy a traditional investment property on the market, but just do it, than try all these things and waste $25,000 on nothing, right? So these are things that I've developed as I've gained confidence and experience, but I would not recommend these things if you're just starting. I would work through an agent. So, but yeah, I mean, that's, and then it talks about our company, I can take you through, but I mean, I'm not going to read all this, but it's basically like what we do is we're a local family owned company. And I firmly believe that the best selling experience for someone who wants to sell themselves or wants to sell off market is selling to one of their neighbors who's invested in their community long term. I firmly believe that. I don't believe that, and I already own a property on your street or next door. I'm going to own that property if I buy it long term, or your property long term. I'm not trying to profit off a situation or flip your property or wholesale your property and try to make a buck on a situation. I'm invested here. I'm from here. And I believe that people work best working person to person with their end buyer, not trying to, get someone trying to get a deal, flipper or wholesaler. Like I'm going to buy, own, operate, invest in the community. And that's pretty much what we're all about here. We're owner operators. So we treat our neighbors with respect and integrity. These are our core values. We provide exceptional customer service, and we invest back in our community because we are from here. We're neighbors here to everyone that we work with. We own a property very close to them, and we want to have a good reputation here too, right? So we don't want to be known in a negative way. We want to invest in our community. So that's a little bit about the website. And then there's different resources for sellers, and like I mentioned, how the process works, and different things on our site that frequently asked questions, and then of course the option is get your cash offer. 123 Main Street. That's an actual Main Street in Easton. So then you submit your phone and email, boom, and then when they click that, I get an email, and then we follow up with the lead. So this is a strategy that tons of investors use. This is not like anything that's that sophisticated. So anyone can put up a site. It's just like getting Google to like it. That's the hard part. So.
Matt,
Did
what's
I
your
answer your question, Matt, on the site?
what's your return on investment in general terms for the money you spend to invest in this this website? What kind of return do you get? I know you're trying the SEO and everything to get it further up on Google and to get people to look at it more, but in general, what kind of return on investment do you see from your advertising to a closed deal?
Yeah, so that's a difficult question to answer directly, because the deals that I've closed where people have filled out forms, it's come from a letter that I sent them, and it's only like 2. So actually my return is very poor online right now. It's not up to where I need it to be, but it's a long game. The ads it's a 0% return. So, and the website has built proof though, like I can't say, well, this deal was closed from the website, because I don't really know who looks at the site, but it is kind of like social proof, and people will get a letter, or they'll get a postcard, or they'll get a call from my VA, and then they'll look it up and they'll say, oh, here's this site, and they're on BBB and Google, and then they'll Google. So like, it's not like a one-to-one thing, but just having it helps. But like the direct correlated return isn't that good. There are investors that like all their leads come from online. Like that's not me. So
that's a really good point. If you're going to be doing mailing or direct contact to seller, having something to legitimize you and your business is really important, because there's the place we just closed, they got a postcard from us. It was a deal machine postcard, and the guy, he liked the postcard, but the biggest thing was that he liked the conversation he had when he called the number on the postcard. It doesn't matter what is behind your company, how big, how small, it's how you interact and treat people. And because of that, his whole portfolio as he retires is coming our way. And this website, even though he might not fill this out, I get website dings anytime somebody visits, right? From wherever, it tells me where the IP address is. So when we have a ream of marketing go out, the website naturally follows and visits from it. So it works. but you have to have something out there in, the interwebs showing that you're not just someone trying to, take advantage. So this is really, really impressive, man. That's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Matt, I don't have any intention of having a site like this anytime soon, but I may build a site just to have, like you said, some credibility, something for somebody to look at as reference. But you had said something about getting Google to like it when you're referring to your sites. Could you
Yes.
explain that a little bit more for those of us who aren't that familiar with SEO and aren't that familiar with what Google algorithms do anymore? I used to be, but not now.
Sure. The truth is I'm learning this, so I'm not really the most qualified to answer this question, but I've made a lot of mistakes recently. And so I'll give you the 60-second summary. Google's main job is to connect a searcher to a solution. So that's all they want to do. They just want to link you to what you want to find. So we're all familiar with going to Google and searching. So what I'm trying to do for this website, and there's like 100 things that they have in their algorithm, and you want to be the most relevant site for the search terms that the person typed in, so that your site is at the top and they click on it and fill out your form. That's the general idea of SEO. So there's a whole bunch of things from age of the domain, like how long has it been there, to how active is it? Like how active are you putting content out there? How many other sites refer to your site? Like, so for example, US News and World Report, all the sites are linking back to that site, or realtor.com.
So link back still count is what you're saying.
They do. Yeah. Citations is big. Like
Citations.
Yeah, so like, let's see, I have to find some contact us somewhere on this site. Oh yeah, here we go. Yeah, here's name, it's name, address, and phone. They call it NAP. So like this is important, so that, and then you could have it on like the Chamber of Commerce, like Yelp, your Google My Business profile, like all these different places. And it's a lot of work to set it all up. So citations is big. And then your social proof, like your social media, like it's all the above. It's really all the above.
Well, it's been a long time since I even addressed SEO at all. So I know that it's a continually changing search parameters and algorithms, and that's why I asked. So thank you.
Right. Yeah, it changes. Like Google just updated their algorithm, and no one knows like what really changed, like you can speculate, but like, just like Coke, like they don't give out the formula. It's the same with Google. Right. So,
yeah.
But again, I mean, this is kind of like having just a simple site for credibility, and you could put a QR code on your marketing materials, I think is really the best way to get started. And even that's a lot of work too. Right. So, yeah.
And Elaine, this might be a good option for you, something multi-dimensional with not just real estate investment, but your professional background as well. I mean, you have a lot of experience in many industries. Having an Elaine website that you can direct in various directions, even though it might not be a lead generation for real estate, if you're going to be going that way, you can make a website on any of the source companies for a few dollars and have it look very, very professional.
Well, that's interesting, and that's true. I had the foresight a long time ago to reserve my own name as a URL. So
right.
Yeah.
Richard's all up on the up and up with that. You guys should connect there. He loves that stuff.
Oh, that's right. He's really skilled with that. Well, I'm going to have a talk with him soon. So that sounds good.
Well, I did it for 30 years, so I think I have a handle on.
Yeah. Well, you're such a multifaceted skill set that I'd forgotten about that. So.
Does anybody have any other questions or really anything for Matt? This has been a ton of information.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks, Mat Pezon. Since we got three of you guys, I want to specifically thank you, Matt, for coming on. And you're such an excellent presenter, and you certainly have your ducks in a row, and the information that you provide has been really not only fascinating but accurate and great. So thank you very much for coming on board and talking to us. One thing I would like to say though is we do have and Matt Morrow, I wanted to let you know that we do have on the REI Partners website the ability for people to sign up to these calls now. So I don't know if you saw that, but
Awesome.
that's
Thanks.
available now. So you don't have to manually keep track of all the people that we have, the 100 and something people that you send out emails to. So, but yeah, thanks again, Matt. Matt P, you're an awesome dude, man.
Thank you so much, Richard. Yeah, and thanks, Matt, and thanks to the group for all of your questions. And I think we're going to link some of my information in the show notes. So please reach out if you have any questions. I'm happy to help in any way that I can. Again, thank you so much for the opportunity, and I hope you found value in hearing a little bit of my path.
This is exactly what we're looking for. You are a real world example of what not everyone wants to be a full-time real estate investor, but there are a lot of people who would love to control their life, their schedule, their outcome of life. And just hearing your story and others in the past, it's real world evidence that this is truly possible with enough motivation and education, a lot of burns and scars along the way from things you've learned from. But this is exactly what everybody, including myself, needs to hear. I really.
Oh yeah, I mean that's so true. I mean, look, I'm just a guy. Like I didn't grow up in a family that was particularly. I mean, we were lower middle class, and like it was just hunger and drive and desire. It really is possible for everyone if again, like maybe closing the loop, if you follow the principles, the rules of the universe, right? The same for wealth, just like I did in chemical engineering and in music, and also in language grammatically. If you follow the rules and you learn them and you understand them and you're hungry enough, the results will be, the input creates the output, right? So the results will happen, and it'll be hard as hell. But everyone can do it. It is possible. Like I'm just a guy, like you said. So.
And nothing good was ever easy. And if it is, you got to question it, right? And
yeah.
Something in the very beginning that I talked to everyone about. I know I spoke to Alex and Matt and John. We do this in every transaction. Real estate is a people business. And it's one of the first things that Matt mentioned during his presentation. If you're in this to make money and only to make money, I don't want to work with you, because that's not the business. It is a people business. You have to be a good person. You have to treat people the way should be treated, and the buildings the way they need to be treated. And if you put good into the universe and always do things for the right reason, it's going to come back to you tenfold. So Matt, you're obviously putting a lot of good out there, because I know you don't want to talk about all of it, but you're crushing things. So thank you so much for all the information you brought.
Sure. Well, and the money is an exchange of value. Like if there's not value for the purchaser, they're not going to buy. So you have to create value for someone else, and you have to understand what they want, need, and desire, and then deliver that. And that's what you do. You're providing a roof over someone's head for their family, and that's a really big responsibility. So, and they in return pay for that value, for that shelter. So, very good.
That's a hell of a quote. You should write that down. Copyright it. Nice.
Sure.
All right, everybody. Any last questions for Matt before we check off early? Is that possible?
Great presentation.
Right
A
on.
lot of insight. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Matt. Really appreciate it.
You're
Yeah,
welcome. You're very welcome.
I
All
very
right, take care,
much
everyone.
enjoyed it. Thank you.
See you, Matt. We'll connect. Thanks again.
Bye,
Yeah,
everyone.
thank
Have a
you.
good night.
Later.
Bye.
Bye.